one of the greatest composers of the 19th century, the powerful name that followed Beethoven, a genius who revived classical music with his symphonies, yet never considered himself perfect. Are you ready to meet him? In today's video, I'll share 10 fascinating facts about the Romantic era's musical giant, Johannes Brahms. From playing music in humble bars as a child to creating the world-shaking masterpiece, German Requiem, we'll explore his incredible journey. Let's dive in. Fact 1. Born into a humble family in Hamburg. Johannes Brahms was born on May 7, 1833, in the bustling port city of Hamburg, Germany. At that time, Hamburg was one of Europe's most important trade centers, with sailors, merchants, and people from all nations walking its streets. Yet Brahms' family lived a very simple, modest life in this big city. His father, Johann Jakob Brahms, was a professional musician, playing the double bass and French horn, performing in various orchestras and ensembles. Despite working day and night to support his family, his earnings were very limited. Brahms' mother, Johanna Henrika, was significantly older than his father, a hard-working housewife who managed the household with care and dedication. Though the family faced many struggles, there was love at home. Young Johannes grew up in a modest household, without toys, but surrounded by music. The sounds of his father's instruments and the conversations of visiting musicians shaped his early view of the world. At the time, few could have imagined that this poor boy from Hamburg would one day become one of the giants of classical music. But fate had other plans. The child growing up in the narrow streets of Hamburg would eventually become a symbol of the classical music world. Fact 2. Performing in bars and pubs. Even as a child, Johannes Brahms showed incredible musical talent, but his path did not begin in elegant concert halls. To help support his family, he had to perform in Hamburg's poor neighborhoods, in small roadside bars and pubs. Imagine this, a boy of only 10 to 12 years old sitting at the piano, surrounded by noise, cigarette smoke, and shouting drunkards. Yet with his fingertips, he played melodies so beautifully that sometimes even the rowdiest patrons would fall silent and listen. This environment was harsh. Many historians note that Brahms sometimes faced fear there, even struggling to survive the harsh realities of street life. But it was those very years that strengthened his character. Music for him was not only about creating beautiful melodies, it became his weapon in life's struggle. The nights in those bars were never a source of shame for him. On the contrary, from those difficult days, he drew the strength to become a genius. And years later, when he was applauded in grand concert halls, no one could imagine that the journey of this great composer had begun in noisy, crowded bars. Fact 3. Meeting the Schumann family. One of the most pivotal moments in Brahms' life happened in 1853. He was just a 20-year-old young man with almost nothing in his pockets, but a heart full of hope. The hope of showing his compositions to the famous composer, Robert Schumann. Brahms went to Dusseldorf and knocked on the Schumann family's door. As Robert flipped through the sheets and heard the first melodies on the piano, he was astonished. He wrote to his friends, "Here is the musical giant of the future. This young man's name is Johannes Brahms." These words were both a tremendous honor and a heavy burden for young Brahms, because now everyone expected a miracle from him. But fact 4. Friendship with Clara Schumann. The relationship between Johannes Brahms and Clara Schumann is one of the most fascinating and delicate in music history. When Brahms first met the Schumann family as a young man, Clara was already a famous pianist and the wife of Robert Schumann. From their very first meeting, Brahms developed a deep friendship with Clara. Their bond was built entirely on music. Brahms became a source of inspiration for Clara, while Clara served as a mentor, offering Brahms guidance and support in both life and music. Some historians debate whether there was a romantic aspect to their relationship, but everyone agrees on one thing. This friendship left a profound mark on Brahms' life and work. He composed pieces inspired by Clara and deeply valued her musical insights and opinions. This connection also reflected Brahms' personal feelings of solitude and longing. He never married, dedicating his life entirely to music, yet his relationship with Clara shaped the strength of his inner world and spirit. In this way, their friendship was not just between a musician and a pianist, but a remarkable example of deep understanding and mutual respect between two individuals. Fact 5. Brahms's symphonies. Johannes Brahms is considered one of the most powerful composers of the Romantic era, and his symphonies are regarded as some of its finest gems. Brahms wrote only a few symphonies, just 4, yet each one holds an irreplaceable place in music history. Every symphony reflects his inner world, emotions, and life experiences. For example, his first symphony took many years to complete because Brahms thought through every note with precision, never overlooking a single detail. For him, music was not just notes on a page. It was the voice of emotions, desires, and the human soul. Brahms' symphonies combine both romantic expressiveness and classical structure. He drew inspiration from Beethoven but created his own unique style. His works feature dramatic rises, calm and profound passages, and sometimes feelings of melancholy and longing. These symphonies are not only for listening, they serve as a window into Brahms' life story, his struggles, and the inner fire that drove him. Every time someone listens to his symphonies, they embark on a journey into Brahms' inner world, a true experience of music itself. Fact 6. The perfectionist Brahms. Johannes Brahms was not only talented but also a notorious perfectionist. For him, music was more than just notes and rhythms. Every note, every sound was a piece of his soul. He constantly revisited his compositions, refining every detail again and again. Sometimes he was so strict with himself that he even destroyed works he considered complete. Historians note that Brahms was his own harshest critic, never fully satisfied. For him, no musical work was ever good enough. This perfectionism had both positive and challenging effects on his creativity. On one hand, Brahms's works reached legendary levels of quality. Every symphony, sonata, and song exudes a sense of perfection. On the other hand, his constant self-criticism and obsession with his works sometimes made his personal life and emotional state more difficult. Thus, perfectionism became both Brahms' greatest strength and at times his heaviest burden. Fact 7. Comparison with Beethoven. Johannes Brahms was often called the new Beethoven. This comparison both elevated his fame and placed a heavy burden on his shoulders. Beethoven was not just a composer, he was a legend in music history, whose symphonies, sonatas, and concertos had created a monumental legacy. Facing this enormous heritage, Brahms felt both respect and fear. For him, every new symphony, every new composition was not just about creating music. It was a tribute to Beethoven's legacy and a personal challenge to prove himself. Sometimes Brahms' friends said that he felt Beethoven's shadow over every note he wrote. Yet Brahms did not falter. He carved out his own style, preserving classical structure while infusing it with romantic emotion. This was his path to revealing his unique musical voice. Thus, the comparison with Beethoven not only highlighted Brahms' place in music history, but also inspired him. Every symphony and composition carried the giant footsteps of Beethoven while simultaneously expressing Brahms' own distinct voice. Fact 8. Brahms' personal life and solitude. Johannes Brahms never married. His life was entirely devoted to music, and his personal life was simple, often filled with solitude. For Brahms, music was not just an art, it was life itself. From childhood, he faced many hardships. His family was poor, his father raised him from a young age, and his mother was significantly older than his father. These challenges shaped Brahms' character, making him strong in his inner world, but cautious in social life. Brahms chose his close relationships carefully. Clara Schumann was both a friend and a source of inspiration, yet he remained cautious about romantic attachments. His solitude was reflected in his music. Every symphony, every sonata expressed his inner feelings, longing, and deep emotions. Brahms' life shows that great creativity often comes with solitude and sacrifice. In his music, every note and every melody carries this profound emotional experience, allowing listeners to feel the depth of his inner world. Fact 9. The German Requiem in deep emotions. One of Johannes Brahms' most famous works is the German Requiem. This masterpiece reflects the deepest emotions, grief, and longing in his life. Brahms began composing it after the death of his mother, and this loss found its expression in his musical language. Every note and chord of the Requiem came from Brahms' soul, For the listener, it is not just music. It is a window into the journey of human loss and sorrow. Brahms' melodies start quietly and delicately, then rise dramatically, shaking the heart. The German Requiem was not only a musical composition, but also a means for Brahms to express himself. Through music, he conveyed his losses, feelings, and emotions to the world. Anyone listening to this work touches Brahms' inner world and experiences a part of his life story. Thus, the German Requiem combines Brahms' grief, inner struggles, and musical genius, standing as one of the most powerful and emotional works in classical music history. Fact 10. Death in Vienna and his legacy. Johannes Brahms passed away in Vienna in 1897 at the age of 64. His death was not only a loss for a single musician, but a tremendous loss for the entire world of classical music. Brahms had devoted his life to music, pouring his love, friendships, losses, and inner emotions into his compositions. On the days of his funeral in Vienna, music lovers and fellow musicians mourned his passing. Yet Brahms's music remained immortal. His symphonies, sonatas, and requiem continued to be performed on stages around the world. His life demonstrated that a true genius is recognized not only for technical mastery, but also for the ability to transform emotions and life experiences into music. Every piece, every melody of Brahms took listeners on a journey, telling a story of its own. Though Brahms physically left this world, his spirit, creativity, and influence live on forever through his music. Every time someone listens to his symphonies, they embark on a journey into Brahms' world, and his legendary legacy remains eternal. If you enjoyed this musical journey and want to discover more stories about historical musicians, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment to tell us which musician you'd like to see in the next video, and make sure to like this video. It helps us create more fascinating stories like this one. Remember, every piece of music tells a story, and Brahms' story still lives in the hearts of millions. Stay with us on the channel, and let's explore the magic of music and history together.